Happy Monday, people. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today. Want to talk about some PlayStation stuff, talk about a Nintendo Direct that was just announced that, well, it's not the Nintendo Direct that I think most of us were hoping for. I also have a sizable update on my stepdad, but I will keep that towards the end of the video because I understand a lot of people, they're just here for the video game news. So if you want that information, stick around to the end of the video. Hope everyone had a happy Father's Day yesterday, whether you have kids or, I don't know, somebody calls you daddy and, you know, maybe you're a stepdad or you're in one of those daddy-dom relationships. Whatever you got going on, man, happy Father's Day. And if you're not a father, happy Sunday. But let's talk about what's going on in the world of video games. We're going to start things off with PlayStation because you might remember a couple of days ago on the channel, I talked about the investors of Sony kind of grilling the PlayStation higher-ups about the success of the Nintendo Switch 2 and how that was going to impact PlayStation. Now, check out that video if you haven't yet. I had a lot of things to say about that and just about investors in general, but the more interesting stuff that has been coming out that seems to be a bit of a talking point is stuff that I alluded to in that video that I wasn't sure I was going to talk about, but the more I think about it, the more I really want to talk about it. The first thing we're going to talk about from this was Herman Hulst, good old Double H, not Triple H, talking about how Sony wants to have one tentpole game, at least one tentpole game a year for PlayStation from their first-party studios as a big game or in conjunction with another studio, basically like an exclusive thing on their platform. And one game a year definitely sounded a bit light for a lot of people. And what actually constitutes a tentpole game was also very interesting because they put up a graph and like some of the things I feel like made sense, but some of the things like not so much. Like 2024's tentpole game was evidently Astrobot, which, I mean, for me, it was definitely a tentpole game. It was a game that I thought was really great. It was well received from people, but that kind of goes against what PlayStation is kind of doing, you know, for this generation and really for most of the PlayStation 4 generation. You used to have PlayStation making lower budget, you know, not big narrative driven games like Sly Cooper, Jack and Daxter and stuff like that. And those seem to be a bit few and far between now. Would Astrobot have been considered a tentpole game if something else came out? Like, would Helldivers maybe have been considered the tentpole game for 2024 if it reviewed better than Astrobot did and Astrobot didn't get Game of the Year nominations? Like, I don't know. When you hear like one game a year, it's like, wow, thanks. You know, don't spoil us too much. Now, I know some people have been doing lists of, you know, since the PlayStation 4, kind of the rollout cycle for a lot of first-party games, and it does seem like most years either have one or two games, so it is kind of what has been happening. But on the other hand, I kind of feel like, well, couldn't there like be more? Like, does everything need to be either a live service game or a crazy narrative-driven game that, you know, tries to make you think about real world stuff? Like, you know, can't you have some other games like Astrobot that are just pretty and fun to play? I don't know. You know, Sony is definitely kind of in a weird position with things like this, and I feel like part of it has to do with the next thing that was talked about in this, because Sony is saying that PlayStation 6 is now currently top of mind for them. And I'm like, bro, like, okay, I get it. Like, the PlayStation 5 came out, you know, over 5 years or roughly 5 years ago or so now. And when you look at, historically speaking, video game consoles, especially like during the 90s and the 2000s and stuff like that, after about 4 or 5 years, sometimes even sooner, you started hearing about successor systems. The video game industry moved very fast, but that was also in a time frame where you got like 10 first-party games a year and stuff like that. And the reason that everything was moving along so fast was because of technological advances, whereas with the PlayStation 5, I feel like we're finally scratching, you know, the surface of this console. You got to remember, a lot of these first-party games, Gran Turismo 7, God of War, Ragnarok, stuff like that, they were cross-generational games, meaning that they were still tied to a PlayStation 4, and a PlayStation 4 version was also being worked on alongside of the PlayStation 5 version. We're still seeing major games like Call of Duty coming out on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. So are we going to be in an era where a PlayStation 6 comes out in 2027 or something like that, and we're still getting PlayStation 4 versions of games that are also on PlayStation 6? From what I've heard in some circles, developers are very happy with the capabilities of the PlayStation 5 and by extension the PlayStation 5 Pro. This isn't necessarily a situation with the Nintendo Switch, where obviously 6-7 years into the life cycle of the system, developers are like, okay, we need something new here. This system is struggling to run a ton of different games. We need beefier hardware. The PlayStation 5 Pro is arguably the strongest console on the marketplace. And yes, you could do something more with a $2,000 PC or a $3,000 PC or something like that. But how many games are really utilizing that full potential of those, high-end PCs versus companies just making games that are more accessible to people with different versions of hardware? I understand that a PlayStation 6 does make sense for the future, like 2030 maybe. There's no reason for console generations to be so short, especially considering that the Xbox Series and the PlayStation 5 both released during COVID when game development was, struggling. A lot of people couldn't work on their games and stuff like that. They were having to find different ways to work on games because they weren't in the office creating these games. So I don't know. I know this sounds kind of like me bashing PlayStation to some degree, and I'm really not. I'm just taking what they're saying and applying it to how I am viewing things. Obviously, Death Stranding 2 is coming out very soon. That's going to be a big title for a lot of people. Fool me once, Kojima, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. But maybe I'll look for reviews and stuff like that. Pick it up down the road. I just didn't really like Death Stranding 1, but, it's kind of interesting to talk about. It's saying the quiet part out loud with both of these things. Yeah, we're shooting for one game a year at least. It's like, well, okay, I'd hope so. I'd hope you'd release at least one first-party game a year. Like that would be nice. Oh, PlayStation 6, we're top of mind. It's like, well, okay, but maybe we can focus on the PS5 and, maybe up those games, double those games from 1 to 2 or something like that to give more variety to the consumer, and have to not rely on Xbox and third-party companies to put so many games on the platform to keep everything flowing around. Let me know what you think of this, though, in the comments section down below. And the final thing we're going to talk about when it comes to video game-related stuff is there's a Nintendo Direct happening 9 a.m. Eastern this Wednesday, and well, it's not the Nintendo Direct I wanted. It is a Donkey Kong Bonanza deep dive, taking a look at the game and some of the aspects of this game. It will be a 15-minute presentation taking place, like I said, Wednesday, the 18th at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. And for me, this is kind of pointless. And let me explain why. Now, I am looking forward to Donkey Kong Bonanza. I do think we have a lot of things to learn about Donkey Kong Bonanza as far as what we're actually going to be doing in the game. From what they've shown so far, both in the Treehouse presentation and in the initial trailer that happened during the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct that we got, there was definitely a lot of questions. It seemed like a lot of bashing of things and kind of creating your own path. What other areas are you going to be in? This, that, and the other. There is a level of mystery to it. But I also feel like this is probably the most pointless Direct ever, because if you own a Nintendo Switch 2, you're going to pick up Donkey Kong Bonanza. There's not going to be any sort of question about you buying that game, because when it comes to the Switch 2 launch lineup, if you've played a lot of these third-party games on other platforms, what are you exactly, still playing now? Obviously, Mario Kart, you're going to play with your friends or play online or something like that, but that's not really a single-player experience. And, when you look at the single-player experience games like Yakuza, games like Cyberpunk, stuff like that, those are games that are already released on other platforms. So if you've already played them, you're probably not going to be super inclined to pick up the Switch 2 version unless, it's just been a very long time. I honestly feel like Donkey Kong Bonanza could have easily been a launch game right alongside of Mario Kart World. Mario Kart World fills out the multiplayer and the family aspect of it. Donkey Kong Bonanza is the single-player aspect that, you can also get for the system and have something kind of different that you are gravitating towards and wanting to play. So I feel like most people don't even really need to like watch this. Like the thing about a direct is, you know, the Mario Kart World Direct made sense because they had to sit there and explain why this game was $80 or whatnot. And for a lot of people, that didn't necessarily happen. With this game, it's $70. It's a single player game. It's a new game on the Nintendo Switch 2, a first party game on the Nintendo Switch 2 that's happening a little over a month after the system comes out. People are going to buy this regardless. I would have much rather have had a standard Nintendo Direct. You know, I made a video yesterday on the channel talking about the future of the Nintendo Switch 2, and I feel like it's solid, but I do feel like there are some core things missing. And a Donkey Kong Direct doesn't, you know, change my mentality on that. Donkey Kong Bonanza was a game that I'm going to buy on day one. I feel like everyone's going to buy it that owns a Switch 2, because by the middle of July, you're probably going to be looking forward to something new to play on the system. And maybe some of these other games that are coming out between then and now, which are a bit few and far between, aren't really up your alley. So I guess this also doesn't negate the potential of a Nintendo Direct as well. You could still do a full-on one with this, you know, just kind of get Donkey Kong out of the way, since Donkey Kong is coming out in roughly a month or so. So that way you kind of clear it out. You could have more time to spend on other games that are coming to the system. So I'm kind of hopeful, at least in some regards, that that is indeed going to be the case, because I don't know, it does kind of feel like if this is the Direct for June and then the next one isn't till September, like it's kind of going to be a bit of a wait to see what Nintendo is going to be doing, because I mean, a lot of these games still don't have release dates. You know, I would have liked to have seen something come out in August as well, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. So are you looking forward to the Donkey Kong Bonanza Direct? Is this do you need this? Is this something that, you know, you're kind of on the fence about buying the game and you need to see more to make sure, or are you just going to buy it because you want to play something new on your Nintendo Switch 2? Let me know in the comments down below. And that's all I got for you guys in the realm of video game news. I did say I had an update on my stepdad, though. About a week ago, he moved to a assisted living facility, which he doesn't really love because he's like 64, I think, and he's like by far the youngest person there. Like, it's a lot of elderly people, but they have a really good physical therapist there that's been like, you know, working him like overtime to try and get, you know, his body and his brain functioning properly. He is able to move his left leg a little bit for the first time in weeks. He was able to stand and take a shower with assistance for a little bit as well, which is a huge improvement. So, you know, things are getting better, but he still just has a bunch. Like, he was like, oh, I want to get out of here in like 5 weeks. I talked to him yesterday for Father's Day. I was like, 5 weeks seems a bit, that's, you know, you might want to add a couple weeks to that there, pal. Like, you know, you got to do the work, and you have to let your body recover. I think 5 weeks is kind of pushing it. But yeah, so I mean, things are getting better. It just takes time, and he's an impatient person, and I'm an impatient person. So, you know, it's tough. But thank you guys for all your kind words. Thank you guys for all the support on the GoFundMe as well. I saw all the messages of you guys that donated, that left a comment saying, we're here because of RGT85. That was a good feeling. The link is still up if you have a couple bucks to spare. If not, you want to share it, or, you know, if you just want to ignore it, like, that's fine too. I completely understand. It's just to kind of help him out because he's not working. You know, insurance is giving him some trouble with some of the stuff as well. So every little bit helps. But let me know what you think of everything in the comments section down below. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like, comment, share, hit the bell as well. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.